النرويج بلد رائد في إدارة قطاع البترول، وقد استفاد لبنان من خبراته في التدريب ووضع أسس وقوانين البترول. لذلك كان لابد من رأي نرويجي بما وصل إليه القطاع اليوم ومختلف المعوقات التي تواجه لبنان. الكلمة لسعادة السفير النرويجي سفاين آس. Welcome, Mr. Svein.
Your Excellencies, Minister Nasarian and Basil, dignitaries, members of the Petroleum Administration, Excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor for me to be here today to talk briefly about oil and gas energy and energy policy and the unlocking of opportunities. Topics of very high importance both to Lebanon and Norway and to the world. The two countries are both small, with small populations. Both are endowed with natural resources. Obviously there are also some differences, and one of them is that we are provided with abundant hydrocarbon resources that are now being exploited. It is our hope that soon Lebanon will follow suit and becoming an important petroleum producer and exporter. I've been asked to say a few words about the cooperation in the petroleum field between Lebanon and Norway, and then to pass on to offer a few modest lessons from Norway's own experience, which may serve to unlock opportunities for Lebanon. Lebanon and Norway already have a long history of cooperation in the development of the petroleum sector. After meeting between then Prime Minister Signora and Norwegian Prime Minister Stoltenberg, the first phase of the Oil for Development program started activities in 2006. The program focused on developing the legal framework and building capacity in public institutions such as the Ministry of Energy and Water, Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of the Environment. Key achievements include the petroleum policy ratified by the Council of Ministers in 2007, the Offshore Petroleum Resources Law approved in 2010, and the Petroleum Activities Regulations approved in 2013. Cooperation also included the dialogue on the development of the institutional framework for the Petroleum Administration, as well as contributions to implementing the strategic environmental assessment in the petroleum sector. The outstanding achievements in establishing an institutional framework for the petroleum sector in Lebanon are, of course, fully Lebanon's own success story. And I think we should all congratulate Lebanon, and in particular the Petroleum Administration, for driving progress forward under the wise leadership of the Ministers of Energy and Water at each period. Congratulations, I feel, is also due on taking the initiative to start the important extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, the EITI, from now on. Let me be clear. Norway stands ready, if Lebanon so wishes, to be there for a second phase of the Oil for Development program, which is now in the process of being established for a new 3-year period. The basis will be institutional collaboration between public sister institutions in Lebanon and Norway, and the program will include cooperation in areas such as resource, environmental, health, safety, and revenue management. Contributing to strengthening accountability and transparency in the sector will be a key priority. Over the years, as I said, strong relations have developed between Lebanon and Norway in the energy sector. And I thank the Minister for his kind words. A strong sense of partnership and friendships have evolved. We feel privileged to work together and discuss sustainable petroleum resource management at an early stage of the preparations for petroleum operations. The first licensing round is now ongoing, and the results may hopefully have positive impact on the development of Lebanon in the coming years. Let me also be clear. Norway does not seek to export a Norwegian model. Each of the 22 partner countries in the Norwegian Oil for Development program will find their own model. So, of course, also Lebanon. But we will like to be there to share with partners such as Lebanon our experience to take the lessons they would like, our challenges and the lessons learned in developing the petroleum sector in Norway. Lebanon will have to decide on its own structures and measures as the minister underlined. But we hope our contribution may help to avoid some of the pitfalls if all goes according to plan. The upside is considerable. Let me therefore, as a lesson, mention that in Norway, which could happen to Lebanon, the petroleum sector has been a cornerstone in the development of the modern welfare state. Few believed that petroleum would have such an important, enormous impact on society when the first exploration licenses were awarded in the mid-1960s, and the first Norwegian oil find happened on Christmas Eve 1969, some Christmas present. 50 years later, there is still a high level of activity on the Norwegian continental shelf, and today the sector is the largest and most important to Norway. We are still, just to mention that, a substantial producer of oil and gas, ranking the 7th largest oil exporter and the 3rd largest exporter of gas in the world. On a per capita income level, and this could be relevant for Lebanon, being the same size in terms of population, the income from oil and gas for the Norwegian common man is way above what we see in Russia and Saudi Arabia, to take 2 examples. However, and this is a lesson, one should not rely solely on petroleum. Share of GDP of petroleum in the Norwegian GDP is 21%. Share of state revenue, 29%, and Norwegian exports, 59%. Let me then bring out a few lessons which may be relevant to Lebanon in unlocking opportunities from our experience. They may include the following. First, put aside differences and unite in national consensus to move forward rapidly. Get started in order not to lose out to competitors and neighbors who they are already forging ahead, producing and now exporting their oil and gas. We do not know the geopolitics. This will go for Lebanon and Norway and all the other producers, how geopolitics will evolve and the world market for oil and gas will look like in 10 to 20 years. Think of the impact that the American fracking revolution, that was not only on the cards a few years ago. Second, a Norwegian saying goes like this, the English version, don't count your chickens. In other words, all the geological surveys in the world cannot substitute for drilling and discoveries and finds. Suffice it to say, as an example, Norway shares identical geological structures with some neighboring countries. All the petroleum resources found hitherto have been in Norway. Third lesson, learn by doing. It is not only prudent to be prepared, but it is also important not to put all the eggs in one basket. Licensing is a most important tool for prudently adjusting the direction and the speed of operations over time. Fourth, strong cooperation, trust and partnerships between government institutions is needed in order to coordinate governments and optimize the benefits of the resources to your country. Fifth, strong relations between the government and the petroleum industry and civil society presents an opportunity to learn from each other and ensure credibility and legitimacy for decisions made in the sector. It is also an effective way of jointly managing expectations. Finally, sixth, and perhaps the most important, sound political leadership and a vigilant parliament and a public are keys. In Norway, Parliament was fortunately foresighted and stood unanimously behind its petroleum policy back in 1971. Furthermore, political parties promised each other never to overbid each other on petroleum policy during elections, and so far they have kept their promise. As I said, and as the Minister underlined, there are some important similarities between smaller producing countries, and in Norway and Lebanon's case, both are relatively, as I said, small countries with a national dialogue for development remaining important. Both have beautiful scenery and coastal areas which need to be protected, giving rise to the need for stringent environmental regulation. Both countries are maritime nations with fisheries, making it necessary to carefully consider and mitigate potential adverse effects of petroleum on that industry. And both have relatively open economies with an internationally oriented government and business community. Let me also say a few words on the opportunities that the petroleum sector may bring to Lebanon, which of course the Minister already wisely touched on. If the potential petroleum resources in Lebanon turn out to be real and are managed well, the impact on the development of Lebanon may be large. It will then be crucial to avert the resources curse and important to enjoy the blessings. Any financial revenues and windfall is our lesson, must be husbanded in the most stringent fashion. Oil and gas should be the property of the whole nation, of each citizen, not the domain of a few privileged individuals. Let me say that to this end, Lebanon might want to look at the Norwegian experience with a government petroleum fund. Under the present fiscal rule in Norway, the government can only spend in the annual budget, on average, over an economic cycle, the expected return of that petroleum fund, estimated at 4% annually. So, 96% of oil reserves revenues are put aside in a lockbox fashion in order to avoid the resource curse for use for the future generations. When oil and gas tumble, as they do these days, this rule is a most convenient cushion. So is the rule that proceeds from the oil fund can only be invested abroad and never in the domestic economy. In this fashion, the fund has now reached a size equal to more than 100%, 150% of GDP, approaching $1 trillion. This is not at all impossible for Lebanon to repeat. These are testing times for Lebanon, regionally, internationally, but with such an excellent start with all those involved on petroleum policy and practice in Lebanon, we are confident, I'm sure I have the entire audience with me, that you will continue to manage well. As a partner, Norway will, with many others, be there, if you so wish, to share experience and lessons learned, principles and practice along the way. However, what happens next, choice of direction, choice of speed, is entirely up to Lebanon itself, its government, and its people. Thank you very much.